Okay. And we are rolling on the 23rd. Don't set the time yet. On the 23rd of January, here at UCLA, where it's a beautiful day, the sunshine is shining, and we're about to hear from Camilla, who's going to talk about an important Supreme Court decision, which she'll tell us about and define, and she has 5 minutes to do so. Thank you so much. And she's in the power stance, which makes her not be able to rock. She first looks around the room. She's in the power center of the room, equidistance from left to right, although we have kind of a weird room today, don't we? She's looking around, making sure that every eyeball is on her. No one is doing anything else, like eating nuts or anything like that. And everyone's looking up. She says to herself, I respect my audience. It really means it. Finds friendly eyes near the front. Say your name, feel the love, start your speech.
Hi everyone, my name is Camilla.
Hi Camilla.
So I want you to imagine if you lived in a country where the results of your local elections for the next 10 years were already preordained, so that the political party you oppose will win every time. Now realize that this is exactly what happened to the poor people of Wisconsin. So today I want to answer the question, how should the Supreme Court rule in Gill versus Whitford? A case that Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg says might be the most important case the High Court sees this season. So as you may know, the common practice of redistricting to a party's advantage is called gerrymandering. And Gill versus Whitford decides whether these efforts can be so extreme so as to be unconstitutional. So my answer is that it is absolutely imperative to the integrity of our democracy that the Supreme Court deems extreme partisan gerrymandering to be unconstitutional, and I'll give you 3 reasons why. The first is because the vast majority of Americans are against the practice. Secondly, because the intent behind it is to make some people's votes worth more than others. And third, because there are plausible solutions for how standards can be defined. So you might be thinking, well, what does this matter to you? Well, you should realize that if it's not deemed unconstitutional, legislatures in your state could potentially make your vote meaningless because they would know that no amount of partisan manipulation of voting districts they engage in would get them in trouble. So this brings me to my first point. The first reason I believe the Supreme Court should deem this unconstitutional is because the vast majority of Americans oppose partisan gerrymandering, even when it is to the benefit of their party. And 71% of Americans want the Supreme Court to define a standard that ends it. And this is according to a bipartisan poll conducted by the Campaign Legal Center on September 11, 2017. And the media also reflects this public sentiment. The Washington Post calls gerrymandering the absolute greatest obstacle to genuine democracy. And the Chicago Tribune says that redistricting after the 2020 census will bring even more extreme gerrymandering. So the American people have spoken, and the Supreme Court needs to take this into consideration. Now, the second reason I believe that the Supreme Court should deem it unconstitutional is because it is done with the intent to deprive certain citizens of their right to vote with a value. According to legal documents released by the Brennan Center for Justice, in the Wisconsin State Senate, one presentation to the Republican caucus made the intent of the process absolutely clear, explicitly saying, and I quote, "The maps we pass will determine who's here 10 years from now. They hired redistricting consultants and used sophisticated software. But instead of getting technical, let's talk about a man named Keith Gaddy. According to NPR, this man provided data that helped the Wisconsin Republicans enact these maps. However, he has since filed a brief in the U.S. Supreme Court arguing that the practice is undemocratic. So this man, who was in the trenches actually doing the dirty work, is telling us it's totally undemocratic. And the third reason is that the plaintiffs are offering several viable solutions for how to draw district lines, according to the New York Times. The last time the Supreme Court saw an issue like this, in 2004, they concluded that there were not yet any manageable standards for judging claims. However, this time around, the plaintiffs are offering two promising tactics called political symmetry and efficiency gap, according to the New York Times. But even if these aren't perfect solutions, does this mean that we shouldn't even try at all to fix the injustices? If you were told that there were hundreds of children in your community with no shoes and you were able to fundraise enough money to give some of them shoes, would you say, oh, well, we shouldn't give any shoes to any of them because it would be very complicated to decide who to give the shoes to? No, of course you wouldn't. You would just do your best to curtail at least some of the problem, just as the court should do here in curtailing at least some of the most egregious forms of gerrymandering. So in summary, I've shown you three reasons. The first was the fact that the vast majority of Americans are against it. The second was the fact that the intent behind it is to make some votes worth more than others. And the third is that there are plausible solutions. So in conclusion, there should be absolutely no doubt in this room that the Supreme Court needs to deem it unconstitutional. So what America do you want to wake up in? The America where your vote counts as nothing because the opposing party has locked in their power for the next 10 years? Or an America in which you can not only vote, but have your vote count? Thank you.
Thank you very much. What was the time?
5:09.
5:09. Excellent. You have 5:15. So that was well done, Camilla. Let's start in the rear. What?
Oh, just to comment?
Yes, but I was going to go with Elizabeth, but then I'll get to you. What'd you like, Elizabeth?
I really liked how you made your opening was really startling and very interesting. And from the moment that I heard it, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And so it was a very good attention grabber.
Thank you.
Right. We know that an opening is supposed to grab, draw people in, make them want to listen. It can be a poem, a quote, a story, a joke, or a rhetorical question. You have a question about the intro?
A comment, actually.
Okay.
Not a question.
Stand up, say your name.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zoe. And
Zoe. Hi, Zoe.
Hi. I really like your intro and your ending. They're kind of like reciprocal. Not reciprocal. They're kind of like reflecting each other. I remember she's talking about putting the audience into two different situations, and so at the beginning it really like drags me into the situation, and in the end it wraps it up and helps me to rethink about the whole thing. So
Yes, we call that a tie back, Zoe. We call that coming the full circle. And we do that on purpose. It's a rhetorical device that causes people to think about where we started and where we ended. Should cause you to think about the most important issue. So I'm glad you noticed that. How could Camilla improve?
I'm Kaylin.
Hi, Kaylin.
I noticed like you moved on the second point, but I don't think you moved physically moved when you transitioned from your intro to your first main point. So that was just something that you mentioned that you should try to do to
Move 3 times.
Yeah, to let the audience know.
She can be excused a little because she has a rotten front there to deal with. But yeah, we do want to move 3 times on our 3-part division of our main body, so it highlights our 3 main divisions. Yes, Mr. Hat. Yes, sir.
So my name's Sapan.
Hi,
I
Sapan.
noticed that you were trying to look around, but it kind of looked kind of crazy. So kind of stick on one person for a couple of seconds or a full sentence, and then move on.
Good. Yeah, let's practice with Camilla. Let's see, what's our time looking like? Yeah. We'll just get one in today because there's not time for another. Camilla, let's let you practice doing vocal and eye contact by telling us about your morning. And I want you to practice walking 3 times. And so come up in front, leave your script there, and I want you to walk 3 steps to the left, 5 steps to the right, and then back to center. And tell us about your morning. Get this on page here. How do you zoom in now? How do you move this thing? Oh, actually, that's very nice. Yeah. And what I will tap the desk when you've reached the 5-second mark at looking at someone. I want you to start over there with this gentleman. Go
So
to the
5 seconds on each person?
on each person, yes. And if you blink, I start the clock over again because that breaks the eye contact. So you want to really make good eye contact. Okay, so start here in the center with me and then move to the left. Okay, begin.
Well, this morning I woke up and I practiced my speech and I finalized my outline and I then had my coffee and I went to my first class and I went to my first section and I changed my eyes.
Yeah, you did. Stay on him for 5 seconds.
Yeah. I had a very boring morning, so I'm having a hard time remembering what I did. But I know that today I have 5 classes, so it's a busy day.
Okay, Mr. Hat now.
And I'll be on campus from 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. today.
Zoom in on your eyes. Close the front. Good. Okay, now Daniel, my brother.
And how was your morning?
Well, I went to sleep at 3 a.m., woke up at 9.
Wow.
Yeah, do that every day.
Every day. How do you get enough sleep?
I'm pretty hyper.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Leo now.
And how was your morning?
It was alright. I got up at 7:30 and drank coffee.
And tell us about what you're doing tonight.
Tonight I have a club meeting. I'm part of the marketing and advertising team here, so we have a meeting at 8 to 10 p.m. on every
Right.
Tuesday.
Oh, I
So,
thought about joining
yeah.
that. How do you like that?
Oh, I really like it. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't even
Now,
know.
did you feel the difference
Yeah.
when you watch yourself tonight on YouTube? There'll be 2 versions of you, one with the iPad and one with the other camera. I want to see which one is the better quality. Watch a couple of things. I'm going to go through them real quick as we're coming short of time, but I want you to notice your eyes, and what you're doing with your eyes, and what you're doing with eye contact. Okay? But now you know what we're after. I think you set a dramatic beginning for saying, how would you like it if your vote counted for zilch? You know, if you were disenfranchised. Well, that's what's happening with people in Wisconsin. So that was a good grabber and grabbed people and drew them in, made them have your full attention, which is what you want. I think what I want to see you do is lose the full paper. If you have to use a card, do it. But you didn't really even need it. You knew your speech was just a crutch. So lose it. I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you quickly got away from Gill versus Whitford and just call it the gerrymandering case that so many people know and can refer to. You keep saying Gill versus Whitford. So that was good. Your thesis was good and clear. She said what her position was, and she gave a preview of where you're going, right? Your 6th statement was good. Why does it matter to me? Because you want your vote to count, so you made it personal to them, so you understood that concept well. That was good. So keep your hands by your side. You're doing a little bit of sequence. You never do this or this.
Okay.
Just always keep your hands by your side. Your first reason was, okay, in this case, be careful of using what I call the ad populum standard. Remember, in 1896, most people thought it was okay to have separate but equal schools, and so did the Supreme Court until 1954 in Brown versus the Board of Education, when they ordered schools to be desegregated. Inside baseball talk for America, you probably heard of this, but you know, if they went by the popular standard, they see the masses loved, you know, segregation. And we now know that the masses can be wrong, and not always be right. So you got to be careful about popular opinion. But in this case, it was fun. But you didn't have just popular opinion. You had the Washington Post calling it the greatest obstacle to democracy. Remember to give us the date of all your quotes. You didn't give us the date of the Brenner Center for Justice study. So quote the date. And remember, it's too late for Camilla, but not for you. This critique is for you. So don't make the same mistakes that she did. I like that you use the personal example and not just mindless statistics. Quotes that you told us about Kurt Daddy, who was a classic turncoat, and was inside and then outside, and said, "I did it, and I did it on purpose," and that really gave their arguments a lot of validity because he said they knew what they were doing and they did it to do this. So that was good. Your third reason about viable solutions was pretty good. It could have been explained just a little bit more succinctly. It was a little bit abstract. But I think, yes, we now know we can fix it and fix it fairly with some citizen commissions that are bipartisan and fair and not just a Republican or, the Democrats do the same thing when they control the legislature. It's like, both sides do it. Depending on who's in control at the end of the decade. Summary was excellent. Conclusion was good. Summary was detailed enough and good. And your tie back, as Zoe pointed out, was excellent. And we talked about your time. Your bibliography was excellent. So really fine job for your first speech. Just lose the, and you'll see there's a little bit of, put a little bit of swing, so lock your legs a little bit more. The final thing I'd say to you is try to work on a little more vocal variety, a little more emphatic style of delivery, a little bit of sameness to your presentation. So make yourself a little more interesting to listen to by speaking faster, slower, higher, lower, pause, go on. Because that makes you more interesting to listen to. You'll never bore your audience, and your speeches will be sticky. Thank you, Camilla. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our work is done for the day. Wait, let me turn that off properly, Daniel, so it doesn't crash.